Aye, Michael, right. On to the most important thing, your action. Nice lefty action, to be honest. A lot of good stuff in here. You're aware that you were talking about the side, almost like a side bending of the wrist that you make from P1 to P2. Club elevates pretty quick. Wrist sort of side bend, side flex, whatever you want to call it. It's almost like you're putting a little bit of palmar flex in the lead wrist in the early part of the backswing, which, you know, again, is not a bad way of working that piece into the swing. I actually quite like that. I've not got a problem with you doing that. It was something that when I first got on board with the system, I brought this up with one of the guys I was doing my training with and asked him the reason for it. Now, it's maybe the case with you, I don't know, but he was saying that a lot of the mat guys, a lot of the Morag guys, want to get the sort of wrist fully cocked by P2, and I was noticing that with a few stack and tilt guys when I was first observing it, that the club worked up very quickly. You know, maybe is that something you've worked on in the past? I'm not too sure. Is it a massive problem? I don't see it as being a problem myself. I think, you know, if you put that piece in there and then are able to maintain it, that's not an issue. My biggest concern with yourself would be that as you get to sort of P3, there's a tendency to continue to extend but not keep the right shoulder working down. I've got to make sure I get my tilts the right way around here for lefties. So instead of, you know, continuing to turn, extend and right tilt to the top, there's a tendency to sort of stop right tilting, continue to turn and extend, which is why we see the head lift up a little bit. It doesn't really translate off, it just lifts up, so that right shoulder needs to work down for longer. When we look at it from down the line, again, turning, extending, right tilting, and then that right shoulder just stops working down. There's a tendency to sort of maybe complete the backswing with a little bit of a lift. Not sure what the camera angle you're using here is. Ideally, when you're filming the swing, if you can do it down the sort of body line here, down the stance line, that will give us a nice sort of, we're going from the same place every time, so that the footage you send me in subsequent sessions, we can get a nice comparison. So there's a little bit of a lift there to the top. You can see the pressure under that left arm just diminishes a little bit. And then the other thing I see you do is I see you dump accumulator 2 a little bit at the start of the downswing, and then almost sort of delay it, uncocking further. It's a definite sort of unloading of 2 there, just a split second as you complete at the top. It's almost like a lift and a dump, and then everything's maintained a little bit too long to stop that sort of dumping action continuing, if you will. If that dumping continued, you really drop kick a lot. To stop that happening, you hang on to accumulator 1, the right arm, sorry, put my teeth in, first mistake, sorry, the left arm a little bit too long, head translates back, and then potentially get high rate closure on the club face as well. Looking at it from down the line, just hanging on a little bit too long. Pretty good through the ball there with an iron. That rate of closure is easier to control with an iron than it is with a wood. I would have you focusing largely here on pressure point 5, which is the underside of the left bicep. So when you pin the arms to the chest, pay particular attention to the pressure on the underside of the left bicep. That's going to get you deeper at P3, which you can afford to be a little bit deeper at P3, and it's also going to continue to stay in that position at the top. There's a little bit of a lift there at the top, so in order to get rid of that lift, we want to maintain the pressure under the left arm and the rib cage. I would also look at short term. I would look at shortening the arm swing a little bit, because at that position we're all nice and stable, and it's as you go beyond that with the arms we lift a little bit too much. So, you know, and a lot of that comes from what we've been taught in the past, doesn't it? You know, we've all been told that, unfortunately, we were all told that the shoulders would swing on one plane and the arms would lift onto another plane, and before you know it, I mean, if it was anything like my swing, it just became a complete train wreck. I didn't know whether I was coming to go, and I couldn't find a golf course. Trying to get the arms to swing more in sympathy with the body is the way forward. You want to really feel like, I mean, I like that position you're in there. I think that's great. That is more than adequate for the iron you're hitting. That last bit is just adding to the chaos. It's not increasing the power any. The shoulders aren't turning anymore. The hips don't turn anymore. The trail leg doesn't straighten anymore. All that happens there is the butt of the club travels further and the arms lift off the rib cage. So there's a little bit more chaos added to the whole downswing. You know, can you still hit good shots from there? Yeah, undoubtedly. But for me, I just shorten that arm swing a little bit, paying a little bit more attention to the pressure point under the left arm. So pressure point 5 is a vital pressure point for you at this stage. So backswing wise, I wouldn't worry too much about the side bending of the wrists on the way back at this stage. I would try and control the length of the arm swing a little bit more, so that we're maybe stopping here rather than here. And that should start to control what accumulator 2 is doing. I like it at this point. Then as we go beyond that point, the arms lift, accumulator 2 dumps. Then we start to hang on to that trail arm, and the right shoulder drops, the left shoulder drops down a little bit too fast. Dropping underneath a little bit too much. And in order to tidy up the downswing, there's a video that I put on YouTube for a colleague of mine up in Scotland, and it's entitled, if you go onto my channel, it's entitled DH Hitting the Brakes, and it's all about the effects. It'd be a good one to show Brian actually as well, because it's all about, it was some work I'd done on my own game. It was just related to a pal of mine and the problems he was having, so I did it as a private message to him, and I thought it would actually benefit people if I put it on my channel. And it's me hitting shots over a period of about a month. And all I focused on was stopping quick. I've always been a high exit player, struggle to control my shot cone when the exit gets too high. So I'm always trying to control my exit, and I found that when I stop quick, that tends to happen. So I was working on stopping quick, and I was trying to increase my club head speed, and that happened. The exit was lower and the club head speed increased. But I also noticed, and I go through the changes on the video, some other changes that were happening that I wasn't focusing on at all. The rates at which I was doing things were different. Certainly the change of direction that I got was different. And I'm looking at you there. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of speed coming through the ball. Right foot spinning out the way. I'd be working on controlling the finish, because it's surprising. If you learn to stop quick, a lot of other things happen in the golf swing for free. And I think that would be, you know, if you were coming to me for a private lesson now, I would tighten up the golf swing on the way back in regards to pressure point 5. I'd have you stopping at that point on the way back. So I would have you controlling the length of the backswing, and then I would have you stopping quick. And that would be the main 2 areas that I worked on in your first visit. I would then, on the next visit, start to look at what we've got for free, and I would get this footage up compared to your most recent. I mean, it'd be a really good exercise for both yourself and Brian if you take on board what I've suggested, to go away, work on it for say 2 or 3 weeks, and then send me some more footage across, and let's do a proper online comparison where we look at where you were and where you are, and have a look at some of the nice changes that you've made. If I get a chance in the coming weeks, what I'll do is I'll forward you a few links from the channel of guys working on the pieces that I've suggested for you as well. And that way that might give you a little bit more of a visual on what I want you to do. But certainly with yourself, Michael, it would be feeling more pressure on the underside of the left arm all the way to P4. P4 would happen a lot sooner, so I'd be controlling. I love that position you're in there on the right. I'm not a fan of that position you're now in. Love that. Don't love that. And sometimes it's as simple as that. Just look at what I want to be, what position, what picture do I like the best. That's such a nicer picture than the one that I showed you just before. So just controlling the arms a little bit via pressure point 5, and then on the way through, hit shots where you stop at chest height. Hit them hard, stop quick. Rules to live your life by. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to fire me an email. Obviously keep the weight forward, maintain the lag, and I look forward to working with you in the coming months.